Are we live now?
Yes, we're live.
Oh, no.
I'll call the meeting to order. It is 7:01 PM, Wednesday, September the 13th. I see nobody sitting in the chairs, so I'm assuming that there is no public forum. May I have any additions to the agenda? If there aren't any. All right, then may I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Thanks, Gloria. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Randy. Heather, would you like to have the chief's report?
Yes, on behalf of Chief Stevens, I'll just read through his report. The Chester Volunteer Fire Department responded to 17 incidents in the month of August with a mixture of medical and non-medical calls. Based on the experiences the membership gained in the wake of the July 21st weather and rain event, this past month, the department trained on deployment and operation of our inshore rescue boat. The CVFD is in the process of attempting to discern what future emergencies could become realities, and based on that comprehension, anticipate what future skill sets could be needed, and therefore what training and equipment will be required to support that evolution. In aid of this effort, the CVFD has been relying upon the Nova Scotia government's documents, Nova Scotia's Climate Plan for Clean Growth, and Weathering What's Ahead, Climate Change's Risk and Nova Scotia's Well-Being, in order to better appreciate the possible threats and risks. Truck 531 is still at Cummins awaiting a new engine after damage during the July 21st weather event. Hopefully, it will be back in service by the third week of September. In order to sustain the service through the apparatus's absence, we have worked with mutual aid partners, including negotiating a new agreement with Halifax Regional Fire and Emergency to ensure coverage for the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Chief Stevens. Now we're moving on to section 5, review and approval of the minutes. Special meeting on Thursday, August the 3rd. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, may I have a motion then to approve those minutes? Thank you, Gloria. Second.
Geraldine.
Thank you, Geraldine. All those in favor? Carried. The regular meeting of August the 9th, 2023. Are there any corrections? Omissions? May I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the regular meeting, August 9th, 2023.
I don't have August 9th.
Page 1.
Schedule 5.2.
September the 13th agenda.
Would you like to?
Well, that's okay. Obviously, I didn't have it in the package. I can't review it, so it slow up the meeting too much to. I'll read it afterwards.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Gloria. Second. Thank you, Laura. All those in favor? Carried. 5.3 special meeting Saturday, August the 26th, 2023. Any corrections? Motion to approve, please. Thank you, Gloria. Second.
Can do that.
Thank you, Laura. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to proposed amendments to the meetings and procedures policy. Item 6.1. Thank you, Heather, for the color annotated copy. Would you like to start this, Heather?
Yes, thanks. So we were discussing potentially moving the dates of the meetings, but as we were going into this anyway, there's a little bit of housekeeping. So I added a few definitions that weren't currently in there. Things like what the quorum is and so on. And when we get into it, we had discussed potentially moving the meeting to the third Wednesday of each month to allow for the bank statements, the paper ones to arrive. We can actually get the online version with the bank charges about a week after the end of the month. But that doesn't have all the photos of the checks, which isn't normally probably much of an issue, but we did certainly run into that this month. That should not have been cashed was cashed, and we have to get the supplier to reverse it. And having that photographic is helpful that way. So that's kind of over to you, and we did talk about putting in the 6 o'clock time. Was more a question of, because most of your audience appears to be watching online and not live, they seem to be watching it later, that it may be more convenient to start a little earlier so it doesn't go quite as late. But again, completely up to you.
Do you want everybody's comments at the time? Which
We could do that.
would
Yep.
make sense to me, rather than everybody ask their questions at the end.
Sure. So this is the key piece that we were really looking at, was this monthly meeting.
Did we apart from the time, did we discuss all of these changes? Did I fall asleep during that meeting?
The only other one, I like, again, some of it is just housekeeping about how we can reschedule things. We did talk about it 4.2, removing the report of the chief, since that report will now be going to the Chester Fire Services Committee.
Right,
And I did go in and add a couple more just procedural.
Randy?
Well, the problem, not problem, what I'm wondering is this corporation up and running? Is it all legal? Yeah, I mean, so who's going to get the fire chief's report in the interim before it becomes a thing?
I would imagine the status will remain quo.
But we would continue until such times as it's activated.
They've actually been giving it at the committee as well the last couple of months, but that's. neither
No, I
here nor
just
there. We can
wondered
keep doing
because-
it here until that's all done.
I mean, it's, I know it's a bit of a hardship for the guys
Yeah,
to drag their asses in there after dinner. And I do understand that, but I thought somebody should be getting a report somewhere.
Well, that is something that we can discuss in a minute.
Okay,
4.1 and other sections in the policy that have to do with time. I think it's important that the time is the same throughout the policy. So I wouldn't be inclined to change the regular meeting to 6. But have the annual public meeting at 6:30 or 7, or have a CAL meeting at 6
Yeah,
or 7.
I noticed the cow doesn't change. It's still at 7.
I would personally recommend having all your meeting times at the same hour.
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
yeah, there's always a question, some people like to have it. They like time to grab a bite to eat, and so they prefer the 7. Whereas other people prefer to have the 6 and get their supper later, so. 6 of one and half a dozen of another.
he doesn't matter.
I like it, Evan.
Historically, it's been 7. And it's been all over the map historically. So, no notice of the meeting is required under the MGA. And posted 2 days in advance. Regular meetings.
I don't understand that. I thought we were required to,
We are required under the MGA to post. For the annual public meeting,
but not for our regular meeting.
2 days, I believe.
If it's I was surprised by this, actually. If it's a regular meeting that happens at the same time every month, you're actually not required to do it. I would still suggest we do, but the requirement is only for 2 days for most other kinds of meetings other than the APM.
So that's in the
That's in
MGA.
the MGA. yeah.
Is this document a legal document or simply a guideline document drawn up by previous commissions?
The policy,
Yeah,
it's a policy.
Yeah, it's not legislation.
It has several dates on it, so.
Yeah, there's-
yeah, no, I guess what I'm asking is. If it's our policy, do we require having it reviewed by the lawyer?
No.
Or we can just,
No, I don't think that's in charge.
No, as long as it doesn't contravene the
The
MGA,
MGA,
then it's your call.
So regular meetings of the commission may be rescheduled, relocated, or canceled by motion.
Oh,
Of
sorry, that should be
consent.
or,
Pardon?
motion,
should be or.
Yeah,
you didn't define consensus, that kind of popped up in my head. Because consensus means everybody agrees.
majority, doesn't it?
No, consensus means everybody agrees, majority means majority. Like when you have a consensus, you talk it through until everybody is happy, that's a consensus. I mean, I'm not stuck with consensus, we didn't define it, so I just throw that out for discussion.
Whatever you like, Geraldine.
The purpose of putting that in really was in a situation where, say, it's a snowstorm and we need to reschedule. Sometimes you may not have a lot of notice, or the power's gone out, or again, it's not something likely to be used, but we had to have a mechanism to change it.
Should you add something to that?
I should add the definition of consensus to the front. That's a good point. Thank you.
Such as,
Yeah.
should the power go out, or we have a blizzard on the Wednesday morning.
Or we suddenly don't have a consent that have a quorum. There's a number of reasons that could happen.
I thought there must be something we can use that says, when the universe implodes.
Yeah. So do you want to preface that by? No notice is required if. And. Regular meetings of the commission. Should be just that, regular meetings
Mhm.
located the second or the third Wednesday. And not rescheduled, relocated, or canceled. By motion or consensus. There has to be, I think, a little more substance to that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like this weekend,
Exceptional
the
circumstances.
hurricane's coming, a lot of organizations that I'm with had things planned for the weekend. And they're all postponed or canceled, so it is true, we need some kind of clause in there.
Okay, yeah, we can
Okay,
take another crack at that. And what do we think about the date?
yeah. The third or the second Wednesday.
Explain again why you feel it's perfectly okay for it to be the second.
It's not so much that it's perfectly okay. One of the reasons we were looking at moving it to the third is because we don't get the mailed statement from the bank with all of the charges and the copies of the checks and all that until around the 17th or 18th. About a week after the beginning of the month, I can get the from their website, I can get the bank statement with all the charges and so on added. It just doesn't come with, I can't access the checks.
But you would know what checks had cleared or what had not.
Yes, yeah, I don't need it to do the reconciliation, so we could leave it as it is. If we want to be kind of extra careful to wait until we get the check copies, then we would bump it to the third.
I think the fire department would appreciate having the complete. Details of their finances. Which you can do by the third
Yes,
Wednesday. I'm happy with the third Wednesday because I, as a commissioner, can see what's what.
I agree. Third's fine with me.
Sorry, what does the fire department be relevant to us though? For the third?
right?
Well,
now.
we are still
We do.
doing,
I know for
We're
now.
doing in-service.
we're still doing
Oh,
overloads for
Yeah.
the next couple of years, so.
Did we settle on 7 or 6, or are we still talking?
We're still doing the day
Day,
first.
okay.
What do you think?
I'm happy with the third.
I'm more
and
inclined
I
to the second,
understand
but
you
I'm-
wanted to have a more
Yeah.
precise view.
Hmm.
Just,
Is it a deal breaker? For you,
no,
What was that?
I'm more inclined to the second.
as am I, so it's a,
Okay,
now, but it's
is that
not
because
for
it works
me.
better with your personal schedule?
Not, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
It makes, especially in the summer,
Mhm.
makes it easier to plan things, but I'm not wedded to it.
Mhm.
I wanted to see what Laura felt.
Lori,
See-
your personal schedule is a bit dicey for the third.
No, I mean, I can change. I've just gotten nice and used to things and my routine.
I fully appreciate that point of view. I'm
Yeah, you
I'm
guys-
pretty dogged myself when it comes to a schedule.
Well, and you people are both heavily involved in other things and we're not that, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Quite frankly, I prefer,
doesn't matter
in
to me.
terms of my personal thing, I like the second because it works better with other stuff, but I'm willing to change to the third if it's more convenient for other people.
I'm prepared to change.
I can do the reconcile without the photographic copies of the checks, but
That's the only thing you're missing?
that's
basically,
the
yeah?
only thing I can't
You can get all the
online.
service chart, I mean.
Yeah, I can,
Yeah.
But
if
you
I
know,
if I give it about a week after the beginning of the month, all
Right.
that's been put in. Like I did this month, I did July and August because I could get August.
I certainly appreciate getting the immediate past months reconciliation instead of 2 months previous.
But it's not holding it up, is it, or is it?
Not now, no, not once I realized that I can get it
Oh,
after a week into the following month.
Oh, okay, so there was a little glitch in that.
Yeah, there was, at the end of the month, it doesn't show up yet, that's.
Okay,
So what, how does one, do we vote on this or what are we
Sure.
doing?
It's democratic.
No, I'm just thinking, are we gonna do?
I think we need to come to a consensus.
Yeah, well, I guess you do. Well, I don't know. Like I said, it's not a deal breaker for me, but. I like it the way it is right
Well, see-
now, but
Here's the thing, Nancy has a strong opinion on it.
apparently, yes.
You have a strong opinion on the second.
I don't have a strong
You don't
opinion,
have
but
a
if it's
strong-
not really, like, if it's literally only the photos of the checks. We do fill in all our stubs, do we not?
We do.
So
Well,
I'm not
guess what,
sure how.
folks? We can keep it as the second Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And if we don't like it, or if it interferes, we can change it next month.
Okay,
But you can, the thing that is wanted by you, she can almost give you by the second Wednesday of the month.
There you go.
Is that a compromise or not?
I will be looking for.
Give me that when we're doing the budget.
Yes, I can certainly
Yeah,
still do that check.
well,
On the
these,
checks.
the other
After
folks
the fact.
appear to be
I
okay
think
with the
doesn't matter.
change, so.
Doesn't matter to
okay,
me.
Glory, I didn't get as far as you on the table.
Does it matter to me one way or the other?
Okay, so we're going with the second Wednesday of each month at 7 PM.
Excellent.
Okay.
Now, what is the difference between shall be and is? In the next sentence?
Shall be is mandatory.
Is
May,
not?
may or is not, it's optional.
See, I would have said may is optional, but I would say is mandatory.
I think it was really just a wordsmithing thing, because to say no notice of the meeting shall be required. But it didn't say. How,
Yeah,
I found,
I know those
Confusing.
documents are always,
yeah,
Fudgy.
You want that changed back to shall be?
no, I was just wondering why it had been changed, but the explanation is clear.
Okay,
So are we good with that particular?
I'm fine.
one?
sure.
Me? How about you? Yeah,
And more meat under 4.1.
yeah, I'll tweak that paragraph and bring it
Okay.
back.
4.2, the report of the chief. I think it could be removed. For, as it is already being given to the Fire Services Committee. And can be copied to the commission.
I agree.
Good idea.
So that would delete, we now have a new 4.
Yeah.
We just moved all the
The
numbers.
number
yeah.
is changed, the reports are 7, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Item 8, new or other business, Commissioner Roundtable is 9. And then after the Commissioner Roundtable would be any in-camera meetings, if necessary. With a resumption to the public meeting to report on any motions. And then finally adjournment. Any issues there?
No, that was
No.
good. I don't think it's fair to ask the chief at this transition point to have to report twice. I mean, they're busy enough as it is.
Oh, yeah.
I think Nancy's idea of us being copied.
Yeah.
Last paragraph. Mayor, clerk, treasurer. Shall confirm on the commission agenda. Content before it's circulated.
I didn't wear my braces on, I'm taking a brace.
It's more, in that case, there's a couple of items here like that one. This is what we currently do in practice.
Yeah.
It just, to me, made sense to actually.
Well,
Define it
Write
in
it down,
policy.
yeah.
Formalize it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just policy.
That doesn't mean that any commissioner is not free to add an item or request the addition of an item to the agenda, either in advance or at the time the agenda is approved. 4.3, the quorum must be present at any meeting for business to be conducted. The chair shall declare a meeting dissolved if no quorum has been achieved within 15 minutes of the scheduled meeting time.
This again comes from the MGA.
Yeah.
There's a number of items here that are out of the MGA that just seemed like, again, it was a good idea
Yeah,
just to repeat it in our own.
I'm just wondering if we could cut one of the commissioners in half if we.
How do we get, what is it, 3 people would be a quorum?
2.5.
Yeah.
So who volunteers to be cut in half?
Was it Solomon?
Yeah.
So clearly it's 3.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it is 3.
I'll actually adjust the definition of quorum to spell that out.
Yeah, I
Um,
found that quite amusing. Evidently, no one else did.
But don't specify. Because there have been times when the commission is comprised of only 3
Oh,
members.
you know what?
We
I
had
think
a
I
quorum
thought
of
that
2.
through at the time, and that's why I didn't put a number.
Mhm.
Yeah, and how do you do that if you've got an even number? For instance, we have 4. Is the quorum 3?
Yes,
Okay. So it would have to be more than 50%.
yeah.
Something.
That might work in the
Yeah.
definition, more than 50% of members.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's a
Yeah, it
5-member
says the
commission. so,
majority of
yeah.
the
But
maximum
sometimes,
number of
like before
people.
Gloria joined us, there was only 4 of us.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true. Well, Carol was there for a
but she
while.
missed one meeting.
Yeah, she
remember,
did, actually.
Before
Well, me
the
and
transition.
Nancy missed a meeting and you 3, I think, or that was Carol that
Yeah.
had the meeting and did what was necessary.
Yeah.
Any questions with 4.4?
No,
4.4A,
Which day?
the vice chair shall act in
Oh,
the
that's
absence.
A.
Oh, yeah.
okay,
Well, it's not really A, but
okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
4.5. By the way, thank you all for paying attention to that. Because you all raised your hands and nobody said aye. Good.
I don't like that, but I know I'm in the minority here.
Well, it is for accessibility reasons.
Oh, I understand the principle behind it, just I've been, for 50 years, I've been doing I. Yeah, so it's hard to get over the.
Well, do you know what you could do? You could raise your hand
And go
touch-
I.
No, touch your eye.
Actually, sometimes I catch myself and I'm going I.
Mhm.
So,
It's,
So.
that's now gonna be codified. That's the way we've sort of tried to do it.
Mhm.
I think it helps also for the.
Yes. Yeah, it's easier for us to, a viewer to see who's voting what,
Yeah.
and for us to record it. If we miss something, we can go back and watch the video.
Yeah. 4.6. Is a variation on the I and showing of hands. Any questions?
No, that looks pretty straight.
So any commissioner may, yes,
Can the chair break a time? Or do you
the
vote on
chair always
everything?
votes,
Chair is votes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I withdraw that question.
certainly.
yeah, that's a common misunderstanding. The mayor should always vote.
Yeah, okay.
Um. Any commissioner may request a recorded vote
Where are
on
we?
any motion.
4.6 B.
4.6, okay. And that's. If you feel very strongly about something, or if you're very strongly opposed to something. That's when you would want a recorded vote. So you can be on record as having voted against something. 4.7. No change. 4.8, a minor. Change with regard to the public forum. Requiring the name and civic address of the individual wishing to address the commission. Yes,
Why was that never in there before? Because clearly a civic address would be required so that we would know that they were a constituent. In some form.
It probably was again in practice, but just not codified. So
Okay.
it seemed the thing to do.
4.9, no change. 5, committee of the whole. 5.2. The committee of the whole will be responsible for all matters, including human resources, which would be of concern to the commission. The committee of the whole may meet, not will. Yes, Heather.
Just something I noticed in 5.1 that I missed on the first time around. Once a month on the first Wednesday of every month, which is currently when we have the fire
Fire
services
advisory.
committee, so. Not sure if you want to schedule a different time or just leave that would be scheduled ad hoc as needed.
Either as ad hoc. Or if we move the regular meeting to the third Wednesday, we could have this on the second Wednesday.
She's relentless, people.
Yeah.
Um,
How often do we meet as committee of the whole? I think
I-
I can
I-
remember
I-
once.
not very often.
Yeah.
But
Why
it's-
do we say call as required?
Sure.
As required.
Can I ask you to stop doing that?
Did I interrupt?
You're irritating me.
Thank you.
No, your pen.
Oh, this. Sorry, damn it. I should never be allowed to have those kind of. I'll hold this one in my hand, but I can't do it.
So the continuation of 5.2, no formal decision can be made when the commission is meeting in the committee of the whole, but motions can be made or recommended that a motion be made to the commission in council.
Yes, exactly. So the next meeting. A recommended motion from a committee would then go before the commission for approval.
I've got
Yes,
hands up. I've got a commission, a problem with this committee of the whole, because it's just the commission.
I know. But
I
it
mean,
isn't-
to me, it just seems really dumb.
It isn't always. Well, actually, the committee of the
What can
whole,
what can it
the
be other
committee-
than that?
the committee of the whole is a committee made up of the whole commission.
Much like
But-
the audit committee is or whatever, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay, I don't understand. Can you explain that to me? Because I mean, we're all here, right?
But we're not, we're meeting as a commission, not as a committee.
The way I've often seen it used really is for more in-depth discussions. These regular meetings are business meetings that we go through and you folks make decisions and we carry on with the business of the commission. Committee of the whole can be used for things like
Like this.
budget presentations, policy reviews. So
it would
yes,
be essentially a one subject meeting.
or just that we're going a little deeper into it rather than,
Strategic
Yeah.
planning, whatever.
Are they
Uh,
recorded? Like, are they
Yes.
viewed by the public as well?
Yeah.
So it's not.
it's still a public meeting, it's
Okay.
just a different purpose. For a deeper
More for
discussion.
discussion than legislation. Okay. For lack of a better term. Annual public meeting. 6.1. Commencing at 7 o'clock. Keep that. So this is where we get into the specifics of the Municipal Government Act requirements. It has to be advertised and posted at least 14 days before the date of the meeting. And then 6.3, we have a question under item 5, the fire chief's report. Now, the fire services committee will be required to have an annual meeting. At which time all members or all residents in the fire service area served by the CVFD will be cordially invited to attend. And the chief would give his report or her report at that time. Once again, perhaps for those who didn't attend the annual public or the annual meeting of the Fire Services Committee, maybe we might want to leave it in to enlighten the residents of the village of Chester.
That's essentially why I left a question mark that. Because it's been practice for the residents that do come to that they and expect to see that, so.
But I don't believe that the chief needs to be there in person.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was about to say that, but also I think, like, once the fire committee is up and running. I think it would be their decision whether they participated in our end general meeting, would it not, or no?
I don't think it would be due to the timing of the annual public meeting and the requirements for the fire department to have their meeting, which would be in January, February, thereabouts, for budget purposes to establish the fire department budget, which needs to then be approved by the village, needs to be approved by the municipality, and needs to be completed and approved by the residents receiving the fire service.
Yeah, and also, I mean, a significant chunk of our budget is going to be going to the fire services, and so we should have an obligation to report to our
To report
citizens, but
on it.
I'm just not sure what the legalities of it are, because the fire committee is a separate entity.
Mhm, mhm.
So, I mean,
Although it is still jointly owned by the village and the municipality, so I think we would have a leg to stand on if we
I'm sure.
chose to include it.
Perhaps.
Is it the fire chief's report or is it the fire commission's report, a committee's report? I
Well,
guess
that's
is
a
my
good question.
I think this will all get worked out as the committee
Yeah.
sorts itself out, but it is kind of an open-ended question there.
I would be inclined to consider changing that to the fire committee report.
Yeah, try that. Hmm.
Good suggestion, dear Logan. Um, Last page, 6. Special meetings. 8.1. The chair may call a special meeting of the commissioners at any time. And shall also do so. Whenever requested in writing by not less than 2 of the commissioners. So the chair is obligated to call a special meeting if the chair is requested by no fewer than 2 commissioners.
I'm a
So it's
little bit on,
essentially saying two things.
yeah,
Which is why I put the also in, because I kept reading it and going, that doesn't make sense. So a special meeting can be called just by the chair on their own at any time. Or if not less than 2 of the commissioners, so there's 2 methods to.
I
trigger
understood
that.
the intent of the sentence, but it actually doesn't make sense grammatically.
I can rewrite it, no
Thank you.
problem.
Because it needs
You
to
can
say that.
and furthermore, shall do so.
Well, it,
I can
it's
do
not,
like an A, B.
yeah,
and
it's
make
not
it really
absolutely
clearer.
clear that the chair has the right to call a special meeting at any time. And then in a separate situation, any 2 commissioners may.
It's a separate thought,
Yeah.
so.
Mhm. Well, you can wordsmith that.
Yeah.
I will, thank you.
And virtual meetings, it's just 9.0. Legitimizing what we've been doing since 2019.
You do have a virtual meeting policy, so it's not really necessary to put this here, but it just seemed like it was putting a bit of a button on it that everything was together.
Well,
Should
yeah.
we refer to the fact that we have a
We could do,
policy?
yeah.
Or just delete the previous virtual meeting blog and say, here it is. It's a meeting, it's here, it's virtual.
The policy we have spells out all of the rules that are in the MGA around virtual meetings, so it's probably best to keep it, but yes,
Okay.
that's a good
All right.
point to refer to it.
Yes, refer to it, makes it simple.
Okay,
Thank you.
So Heather, you will bring this back to us,
Correct.
and that's Christine Horn. And we'll vote on it next month.
I was wondering how we were gonna finish.
I'm sorry.
I was wondering how we were gonna finish. So Heather has to make all the alterations.
And then we have to make
pass it.
sure that she did it
That's right.
correctly.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's.
Now, I
then-
have to get these papers.
Yeah, lost the agenda somewhere in this book.
All right, here we are. Street decor, Heritage Corner, flower baskets. Heather.
Okay, so these again are kind of 2 thoughts that were brought up at the last meeting. One of them being putting up some banners to indicate that Heritage Corner is a thing. So I've got a couple of pictures here just to show what these kind of banners look like. They can be quite attractive depending on how we design them. The idea here would be that there would either be one banner on each of the 4 corners, or 2 banners on 2 of the corners, whichever is your preference.
Now, are we referring to Heritage Corner?
Where is
Right.
Heritage Corner?
Is that Duke Street or
No.
Pleasant Street and
It's that
and
corner
Queen
with-
or what?
With the church?
Sorry, Lordly House Museum.
Oh, okay, that's. There, I didn't.
Sorry, I should have put the address.
But Lordly House,
It's on Reed.
The
yeah, it's over
library.
there, yeah. So
The library, St. Stephen's, Lordly House.
Lordly's on Region and
And possibly
What is
St. Augustine's, yes,
King, I
and
think, are maybe.
maybe possibly the Baptist Church.
I don't know what's wrong with the Baptists. They don't have saints in their church's names. How the heck can you know what you're talking about? This is a Catholic girl
I was
talking.
gonna say,
know, I hear
oh,
you.
look at that. So,
Sorry,
I'm sorry, I
Go
guess,
ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
these banner things look like that a good storm would tear them to pieces. Are they tough or?
They're, I don't have that. What they're made out of, but they're double-sided and they have holes. To allow wind
Oh, I
to
see.
go through them, so it doesn't just rip them to
Okay.
pieces. So they are designed for outdoor use.
Was the thought, whoops,
yes,
was the thought that they would just be primarily for the tourism season and then we would take them down during the winter, like heavy, first of all, we don't have very many tourists in the winter, but maybe to make them last longer, we take them down in the off season.
Yeah, that would be up to you. This comes with mounting hardware, so they should be able to come down.
and this is very preliminary.
Yeah. I still am not sure where corner is, because if you're including Lordly House and Zoe, it's on that corner way over there. And St. Stephen's is way over here, so they're not on the same
It's
corner.
like a crossroads there,
Mm.
basically, yeah. The graveyard is there.
I love the graveyard.
This is Lordly House.
Yep.
This is St. Stephen's.
No, because
And-
if Lordly House is there, this is Zoe Ballet Library. And then
No,
over here.
Zoe
St.
Valley
Stephen's.
Library.
I'm gonna grab a map.
Like Regent and King.
Behind you, I was trying to find it, but there it is,
Oh,
Yeah, because Lordly House is like there.
I
and
know
then you
where
come
it
up
is,
the
I know.
street,
Yeah, I know where
St.
it's at.
Stephen's is here. Am I dreaming in Technicolor here?
closest map being this one is wrong. Churches is a Regent.
Now there's St. Stephen's right there,
Which
and there's Lordly House there.
No,
Isn't that over on Central?
Central Street. There's Lordly House,
Lordly, and there,
and there's the library, there's St. Stephen's, and there is St. Augustine's.
well, St. Stephen's is on the corner of Regent and King,
Yeah, exactly.
right here, and then St. Stephen's, or St. Augustine's is here,
Regent and King also.
yeah.
Well, it's still preliminary.
Okay.
Yeah, we,
I just like making
Four would
trouble.
be nice, 4 corners.
Yes, Brand.
I was under the impression last time we discussed this. That we were looking at either a partial or a complete replacement for the flowers.
So that's on the next page.
That's the next conversation.
But is that what do I read it rightly from last time?
There was it's two separate conversations, really. One of them was to put banners at Heritage Corner,
Oh,
and then the
I,
next page gets into the flower baskets.
In other words, we could have banners
yeah,
and.
I thought one was going to somewhat replace the other or something.
Well,
so,
we've
yeah.
got other replacement ideas
Yeah.
for the flower baskets.
Okay. There's Central Street. There's Lordly House.
Yep.
There's Zoe Ballet.
Yeah.
There's St. Stephen's, and there's the fire station and EHS. And St. Augustine's is there.
Yeah, the only reason that I'm quibbling, because, I mean, this is all like graveyard.
That's the
everything,
graveyard.
St. Stephen's is here, but you're quite right, I mean, the property is there,
Mhm.
because I think of St. Stephen's as Regent and King.
Yeah, because you're thinking of the church. itself, yeah.
So. We have another conversation. I had, I have some concerns about the mounting of these on the wooden utility poles
Are we back to the
over here.
banners?
Yeah,
These ones. are mounted on skinnier
No.
metal poles.
Well, there's one mounted on a telephone pole.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, these photos are all from the supplier I got the quote from,
Mhm.
so I can certainly go back to them and just clarify that. The mounting hardware works on a larger pole.
So 4 double-sided banners. Can you explain this? 1 per 4 corners or 2 per corners?
It was, you had talked about having a banner at the 4 corners, so it could be 1 at each corner, like the single photo. If you liked the look of a double banner, which might be a little large for the area, honestly, but I thought I'd include it because you can do something a little different with the design. That to keep to 4, you would just put 2 banners on one corner and like a pair on opposite corners and not on all 4. Just to keep it to the same number, but you can all. It's just a suggestion, you can always order as many as you like.
And it's approximately $2,000 for 1 banner.
That's for all 4.
Okay.
So that's for the 4 banners, including tax, shipping, and installation. Now, the cost for designing the banner is another question, but that's something either. You may want to task me with having a crack at, or we hire a designer for.
Or we continue this discussion under 9.3, which would be another option. So page 18, sorry, I'm deferring the banner discussion.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ready to make a decision on that.
Oh,
yet.
gosh, no. Page 18. The flowers in the baskets. I was under the understanding that the baskets, the flowers, the baskets, and the wreaths totaled 22,000.
There's actually a separate line item for wreaths, another 5,000 for those.
That's a lot of money. For a very short period of time.
The 22,000 is spent.
Yeah.
The commission has been criticized in the past by a few people. Who think it's outrageous. There is no doubt in my mind. That the flower baskets for the short period of time that they're up. Do normally put on a very good show. But I am at 6s and 7s, personally speaking, about the sustainability of it. And the sustainability of the person who waters them for 8 weeks. And whether or not that contract would be stay the same. As far as cost is concerned. I believe that the cost of the flowers themselves is very small,
Yeah, it's looking after them that's the cost.
yes.
It shouldn't cost that much. It still shouldn't cost that much.
Sorry.
It still shouldn't cost that much.
Yeah. And this actually has not gone up in a number of years, so I think if you were to look for.
Can you break that $22,000 down for us? Just, it doesn't have to be perfect, just kind of off.
5,000 for the plants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you recall?
Max.
I'd have to open up the line item and look.
I think the plans is like 42 something.
Yeah, it was in here.
So everything else is looking after them.
Mhm.
That's a lot of money, but I did love those flowers.
Putting up and taking down also is.
Yeah, and delivering them and.
And the other- there is 76 locations if you look at the map, so. That's
Yeah,
an
one
issue
could
as
think
well.
about reducing them to the center of the village, I suppose.
Mhm.
Or the main drags coming in.
The other thing to take, if I may, the other thing to take into account is with climate change, it's going to become more challenging if they're gonna slow down. We're already in pretty hard shape for
Yeah.
sadly early this year.
They're
Very.
looking pretty raggedy.
And they're gonna look.
They need
worse
to come
on
down
Monday.
now.
When are they due to come down?
Should be anytime this week, next week, probably next week.
Between the middle to the end.
It's going to come down.
Yeah, so likely it'll come down next week and they'll probably be,
Is that the normal timing?
it's usually the middle of September, yeah.
Okay.
Kerry likes to hang on to them for as long as he can. When they are a good display, and if
Right.
they do have a good fall season.
Last year, they seemed to last much longer than they did this year.
Where they didn't get drowned in July.
True.
So this order needs to go in by December,
November 1st.
November 1st. So we have to shave or get out of the bathroom by November 1st.
Good to know.
Randy?
The other question I had about the sustainability of the flower baskets is that we have no guarantee that the prices for the flowers won't just go. I mean, sure,
Yeah.
we've got away with it for a number of years, but we only have one supplier who's interested, is my understanding. Right? We tried other suppliers, they didn't want to talk to us.
Who do we deal with now? Kent?
Village
Somebody.
Nursery.
Yeah,
Submit it, but theirs was almost twice as much.
yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, if these people we're dealing with now suddenly decide they can't make a go of it at that price. Up it goes. I'm just thinking of ways that the cost could increase in this situation and.
Blink and
Yeah.
then it'll increase.
Yeah, and the idea of having local artists doing representations is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of it,
Yeah.
and also, once you got it, you pay for it, and so then you can get something new the next year, like you can build your collection.
We can start small and localized and build from there. I spoke with Carol Hansen. And she has the name of someone who has done a banner that's hanging on the captain's house. That is thick and strong and whatnot. I can get more information on that for you. But I, like you, do like to utilize the local talent that we have here. To do their own floral explosion.
Of course, like the suggestion, these sculptures and so on, and there's so many talented artists in our community. It would be very intriguing, I should think, to have some of those, maybe, but I was gonna say, maybe we could just have a few flower baskets, but then we have the problem of, will the suppliers supply
Supply it,
them?
yeah.
And have to
Right.
get them to look after them.
Installation
There's
only,
a few
so-
of them. Yeah,
The downtown tea right now is using Gail Corkum. Who has planted the barrels that you see.
yeah,
And she has also planted Dean Leland's planters, which I think are terrific looking. They're colorful, vibrant. Perhaps the money that we're spending throughout could be localized in the central village area using Gail Corkum or another person who would bid on the project.
and can you explain that for me further? I didn't really understand it.
Is that Teddy's?
For one thing, I don't know
Yeah.
who Dale Corkum is.
Do you know where the baskets are?
It's
here?
expensive
Yep.
too.
The tugs?
Yeah.
You wanna check that.
Well, do you know where the planter window boxes are?
Yep.
At the tavern?
Yep.
All right, she has done both of them.
So you're suggesting perhaps we could add a few of those around and also consider maybe doing some sculptures or something.
Well, the merchants themselves bought the barrels. Dean pays Gail to do the window boxes at the tavern. Maybe. But you know, this is another maybe, if we've only got 6 weeks. Before the order has to go in.
We still need to get a quote too. We don't have a quote yet, do we?
And we'd have to put it out for.
No, we'd have to put it out.
Yeah, you have to put it out.
RFP.
I'm trying to clarify in my mind. Are you suggesting we
We could
could
spend some of
participate?
that money that we've allocated, the 22,000.
So we would
To
buy,
pay Gail Corkum or Susan Levy
Yeah,
at,
so we build new boxes and they would look
you
after
know,
them,
have them to have them plant them,
plant with.
the boxes, not the boxes,
The barrels.
So we would buy new barrels,
No, the barrels are here,
but somebody is already doing it.
I know, but that will end when winter comes. We could give the merchants the money to do it.
I'd rather do something inventive on our own. I mean, they've already established it, let them do it.
All right.
I mean,
Are
why
you
should,
on page 2 yet?
I am on page 2.
Yes, yeah, of this. If so, may I,
Sure, go ahead,
Interject.
spit it out.
I like that idea there,
The sculpture.
this page 18 type idea.
Mm.
I'm over flowers myself personally. But
Been there, done that.
well, more or less, but I like the idea of, especially the one in the upper left corner of the sailboat.
Mhm.
And they're made of, I assume, iron or steel or something like that.
There's several artisans around who work in steel.
And I think we could have famous Chester boats put in there
Mhm.
and hang them around, different, you know, like say Chester Sea or some kind of boat that's recognizable to sailors. I know as a sailor, I'm kind of, what would you call it, wedded to the nautical
down.
stuff. I don't want to get tacky nautical stuff, you know, ship's wheels and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
You know,
yeah, and also, I mean, if you're like contracting out to local artisans, they may come up with ideas that would be, that we didn't even think about because they're artists and they've got good ideas.
And the third page, in order to finish my input, is interesting, but I think you'd have to be very careful not to be too avant-garde with what you're doing.
Yeah, I have no interest in that page at all.
Yeah. I like some of the animals, but they don't fit into what we want to say.
No. No,
You know.
you want to see things, I mean,
I want a nautical-y
Yeah.
type of arrangement.
well, I don't know if it needs to be nautical, because I do like the idea of those fishies there.
Well, yeah, but sea, yeah.
Sea related, yeah. Gloria has her hand.
Yes,
Walter Downey does the
Yeah.
metal work, so he would be one
Perfect.
to,
Walter, I hadn't thought of it.
him and David Canaway do it together. They do really nice work.
Mhm.
You know,
That would be this type of stuff, Gloria?
yes, yeah, like the
There-
boats and whatever,
Yeah.
right? I'm trying to think, we did, because when I worked with them, we did some. Things for in Halifax way, I can't remember what it was we did.
Isn't there somebody else who does the metal work?
Melissa does some. of it.
Oh, Melissa, yeah, over in Western Shore, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think she does more railing
Yeah,
and
she
stuff
did.
like that,
In
yeah.
rocks.
Wrought iron and stuff.
Yeah,
we do have to keep in mind that. The hangers for the hanging baskets also hold. The Christmas wreaths.
Yeah. Are they the hangers, are they permanently installed?
As permanently as they
Yeah.
can be without,
And
until they rust off and
Okay,
yeah.
drop.
so almost permanent.
Mhm.
you'd have to design it to go down the center of a wreath then or something. So that say you had something like that sailboat,
Mhm.
that when the wreath went on over top of it,
You
it
could
would
still
show
see
through
the
the center. yeah.
It's a challenge, ladies and gentlemen.
Unless you could have separate installations.
Oh, yeah, I guess maybe.
You're not gonna
Yeah.
take them down.
No, no,
You'd be replacing, putting those up instead of the flowers.
Well,
or at least partially. So we're not gonna do anything about this now, are we?
no, but I get the feeling, I don't know about you, Nancy, but I get the feeling that people are reflecting Randy's position. He's done with the flowers.
It's hard to say, it's hard to say.
I know in the past when it's been talked about. I've got a lot of calls.
Pardon?
Get a
Negative,
lot of calls.
negative.
Yeah.
Don't you take
Don't
them
take
down.
those flowers.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't take
yeah.
those flowers down, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've had the same kind, it's almost less, I get people who love them, and I get people saying, geez, that's an awful waste of money.
Mhm.
But we could do, yeah, but it's hard to say who would do them, plant them, right? I was gonna say we could do like half of the flowers and half of these metal things, like.
Yeah.
we-
But since
It
we've already
doesn't have
got,
to be all of the same.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is room for compromise. But let's move on, shall we? Yes. Correspondence, Brenda. Okay,
I mean,
she has written advising us that if we're. Do you have a response? to
I
that?
do.
Excellent.
It is true that we are not required by the province to have lifeguards. But it is the recommendation in the province's operational guidelines for public pools and their safety plan guide. And it is the safety standard of the Life Saving Society's national pool safety standards. The national standards require at least one lifeguard and one assistant, which is what we do. I really would be reluctant to not. Because if something were to happen,
Mhm.
I can't imagine that insurance would,
That was the thing I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
the liability.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just in the interest of public safety and liability, I would hate to see that change.
But that wasn't the message that I got from her note. It was more that if we were short on lifeguards, the supervisor would come and fill in.
I think that's what, because just the thought is, it is unfortunate, the shortage of lifeguards. That's because of the COVID and no training is being done, but training is now.
And there'll
really
probably be
being
more
done.
lifeguards next year.
Yeah.
But is the supervisor a lifeguard or?
No, that would.
No.
Like, so, no.
I had,
It's the lifeguard supervisor, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I would assume that they would be
just,
a lifeguard.
he's thinking just,
You guys are saying two different things there. So you're saying a supervisor and you're saying a lifeguard. So Heather's thinking she's the lifeguard.
Well, I supervise the lifeguards. But the
No, I'm
lifeguards,
talking about the lifeguard supervisor.
yeah, the
So who
lifeguards.
is a lifeguard?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
whoever's in charge at the pool at any given session
So
is always a
who's
lifeguard.
Brenda talking about?
That's what I thought she was talking about.
I was thinking she was just thinking like a volunteer or something.
Flexible person. I think
Person,
is-
yes.
I don't think you can get away with that anymore.
No, so I said they'd
Lifeguard.
Oh,
have to have training, like, you know, and stuff like that,
The
right?
legal liability, I mean,
Yeah.
if anybody drowned when we didn't have a lifeguard
I
down
wouldn't say
there.
to anybody.
I can't imagine that,
And perhaps a retired.
that there would be enough supervisors
Yeah.
in the Royal Life Saving Society to fill in for a lifeguard that we couldn't get on Wednesday.
No.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a very kind of her to suggest that to us, but that
I agree.
we carry on.
Right. And as Maxine says, hopefully there'll be more trained
Yeah.
lifeguards. next
They,
year.
they,
Yeah.
they pushed quite a few through this year.
We only really had one week that was pretty bad, and that was because they were away.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, but the other point I'd kind of like to raise while we're on this is we don't actually have a policy about our operations for the Lido. I've found drafts here and there of procedures and items like that, but I would really like to put those all together into an actual policy that we can point to and say, hey, this is how you.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I'll bring that along in the fullness of time.
Yeah,
Well, before the next season starts anyway.
So now we move on to 7.2, Nova Scotia's proposed built environment accessibility standard work.
Oh, dry work,
Very complicated.
dry work.
They're inviting individual commissioners to
In
make
30
comments.
seconds or less, Geraldine.
They're inviting individual commissioners to make comments if they so choose. So take it home, read it if you have something to say.
Unless there's something that we as a commission feel is very important to speak
Yeah,
to.
you could bring it back to the next, well, the deadline, I think is, yeah, it's October the 30th, so we could certainly discuss it at the next meeting. These meetings are, well, Heather, I'm sure will agree with me, they're very slow and they're cumbersome and they're dry.
There's a lot of detail.
Yeah,
Oh, dry work.
Now, this ties in with, unfortunately, what Heather is going to say about this accessibility. Because in your report, Heather, with regard to Toledo and Jamie Yates.
yeah,
The architect.
because this is going to become part of the law,
Oh, yeah.
not right away, but.
You gotta get
It's part of the big picture,
Yeah.
we'll cover them. I did have a look through the whole document,
Yeah, but
no real surprises there except for. You know, it's a similar argument we've been having about funding, that villages are responsible. To have all of this in place, but we can't actually apply for the funding directly. So it is something we have to do in concert with the municipality unless. This has been raised by the Villages Association to the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Because it's a big concern for all the villages that we
Are
can't, we're expected to adhere to it without having access to the funding to get us there. So,
doesn't that have anything, that has something to do with the changes to the MGA? They're thinking about making a few changes to the MGA,
oh, yeah.
and that's one of the
That's
things
one
we
of the ones
want.
we've requested
Yeah,
that they put on the list.
but this is part of a new piece of legislation about accessibility.
Oh, yeah, no, I read the piece.
There's even items in there about having a pool lift, which would be a pretty big ticket item.
Oh, God, yes, that would be $200,000-$400,000.
And you have to maintain it and all that sort of.
Yeah, so there's a number of things on there but it's mostly around funding that I'd be concerned.
7.3, the code of conduct.
Again,
Heather, would you like to speak to that?
This is a working group. I'm sure you probably, you may have participated in some of the, there's been a number of rounds of consultation. I believe it's NSFM who's actually been working on this along with municipal affairs, so they.
And what are those letters stand for?
Oh, sorry.
Federation of Municipalities.
Yeah, which villages are not a member of, but this is still applicable to villages and municipalities. So hence having some input into it. So there's a number of representatives from different municipalities and villages around the province that have been part of this working group. So the current code of conduct is you all would have received a copy of it when you were elected. It's a pretty simple document. It's only a few pages long. And there has long been interest around the province to put a bit more substance to it, and some and enforcement primarily is a big item. So the group has gone through a number of rounds of consultation, and this chart indicates where so items like there should be one code for all municipalities and villages. There's no feedback required for that. So there's a survey that basically brings up the items that feedback is required. Like, for example, the code of conduct should apply to those who have been elected but not yet sworn in. That's a question. So if you go into the survey, it will ask you whether you agree or disagree with with adding these items.
And mind your blood pressure.
I've gone through it, I've entered it.
I did a survey
Yeah.
ages ago about this, but they must have revised it,
They have, yes.
because I remember the survey.
I think this was like the third round of consultation, so this is more of an ask from that group to go in and complete the survey, so they have as much feedback as possible.
I was surprised at how much feedback they're asking for. I thought at this point in time that they would only have a bit here and a bit there to tell us every item required or requested feedback.
It's right before that.
Now, Laura, you had a group of people together at the Legion with regard to running for politics or,
Oh, it was working well.
sorry?
It was organized, I think, by the Liberals, but that's not,
Yeah,
it was just about, so you think you want to run for politics. Mostly it was women. And they just wanted to get people's views on it because people are nervous that they'll be,
my opinion of the survey and the rules and regulations
thank you.
with regard to the code of conduct. If you want to drive anybody away from running for any kind of office, this will do it.
Yeah,
Mm.
pretty substantial.
Page 35 particularly.
If you go to page 37, it has the full document. The full draft, anyway, you can see this in there. It's certainly quite a bit more substantial than what currently exists.
Excuse me, Chair, may I speak? Page 35, this recommendation about this training to be developed, they're suggesting mandatory. You have to pass the test,
Yeah,
and one thing, to me, that's a big no. Elected officials should be required to complete the training within 30 days of being elected. I don't think you can make it mandatory. They're suggesting that we go along with making it mandatory to watch the online module, write the test and get 70% plus to pass. And then do it within 30 days of being elected. Who the hell is gonna do that?
And this is exactly why we need to all fill out the survey and fill out our comments.
I didn't realize there was another, I thought we were gonna talk about each one of these.
Oh, right.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So we have to go on, each
Yeah.
one of us have to go on and do this?
yeah, there's
Well,
a
that's
link.
good.
you don't have to.
No, but
Not if you want to.
I did the first
I'll
one.
have to use it. It's probably not a bad idea to. have some-
So where is the survey?
It's online,
On
it's in
the
the.
Bible Hill page.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got that somewhere.
Yeah, it's on the first page.
Yeah,
On the page, it's in Dutch tiny printing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things though I did agree. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there were some things that I agreed with also. Actually, I agreed with more than I disagreed.
I
with.
agree as well.
But this 30 days, I said, what about extenuating circumstances? Like, come on, guys. Give me a break.
I'm writing no test to be. a commissioner.
When I read that, you could almost see it was people who have been involved in this so long and they just, people are gonna do this. And that's-
Yeah,
And there's
yeah.
also items concerning penalties, financial penalties.
Yeah, that's a bit over.
Yeah,
Well, there's quite a bit, before there's any financial penalty, there's a lot of investigation and back and forth thing and yada, yada.
There's a scale.
They're trying to make it so that anybody who does something very egregious can be brought to heel, basically, in
they're
some
trying
way.
to make it so that if anybody even considers. Running to benefit the community. They're gonna take a look at it and say, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I might talk to Joe who delivers gravel or something and shit, they'll have me up for a conflict of interest or something.
I
Yeah,
mean, really, any board like us or municipal council or anything, if somebody did something so egregious like they, you know, took money or something, the council or we would deal with it with our own member, you know?
but there has to be a framework with how this is dealt with legally, so that the guy or woman has no comeback to say, oh, they just railroaded me, you know, it was like, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't follow a specific,
Is
Yeah.
this actually a legal document? If we sign off on it, are we obliged to follow it?
I believe that's the intention eventually. Yes.
After I filled in the survey, it went poof. Into cyberspace.
You
So I
have no
can't
record
tell
of it.
you
Yeah,
what my responses were.
oh yeah, you can't
I
look back.
don't like
I
that.
didn't send back a copy.
No. Once you submit, it's gone.
I hate that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a setting you can toggle on or off.
Oh, okay, well. I'm
But
not
obviously, the survey makers did not.
All right, Heather, 8.1. So, activity report, so Lido Pool, we touched on this a little bit already, but. The Lido closed for the season on September 2nd. Several of the staff has had an interest in coming back, and we will attempt to lock them down early, probably very early spring. November.
Signed and left.
Yeah.
Page 40.
46.
Thank you.
We wound up with a pretty good team. Toward the end there, and one of the other assistant, at least one of the other assistants will be certified by next year, so. Hopefully we'll be in a better position. Jamie Yates, the structural engineer who conducted the 2017 assessment. Was on site at the pool on September 8th. He will be providing the updated assessment needed to issue an RFP for the exterior wall restoration project. His report is expected around the end of the month, but he was able to tell me that the exterior wall is in good shape. In his opinion, we may very well be able to scale back the scope of the work, so I'll look forward to seeing his recommendations and obviously bring them forward. Yes.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to refer back to that. Jamie Yates.
Yes, it's a number of separate issues because Jamie's evaluation was around the exterior wall project that we got the funding from the province for. So that's one, and then two is the mortar and the rock wall that needs to be drilled out and replaced. MODC brought in a supplier to inspect the site, but I still don't actually have a preliminary estimate for the repairs. And this could be quite significant, so if the other one can come down a bit, that would be helpful. And then in terms of accessibility, that is a whole other conversation that would have to be working with MODC on that. I've talked a little bit to Fred, the Director of Public Works there about this. He's relatively new, so he wasn't aware of some of the previous discussions, but I've got copies of conversations that Jeff had certainly with them over there. So that's a conversation to follow up with them on. About what we do.
You said we got funding for the exterior wall. Do we have funding for the interior wall?
We do not. What we requested from the province, the application that Jeff put in
Mhm.
just before he left.
Yeah.
Just talked about that project, but. My understanding from looking back through those documents is that. The commission used to do kind of annual maintenance, and then they were thinking they would do a large upgrade. Which would still require annual maintenance, so it doesn't take that away. But Jamie was looking at those initial plans and thinking this is the Cadillac model. We probably really don't need it because it's in better condition than he would have anticipated. So we'll see what he comes back with. I don't want to make any definitive statements on anything until I see the full report. Did you want to add something?
No, I didn't want to interrupt, sorry. I'll ask at the end.
Insurance, so this is around our current. A new batch of insurance applications forms arrived just before the long weekend for the village, the Chester Fire Services Committee, and the fire department. Drafts were provided back to the broker middle of last week, and some follow-up information was requested. Thanks to the CBFD for their assistance on fire department asset details. They are still working on some of that information for me. I've done all the other, filled in all the other information they were looking for, but I still need a little bit back from Cody. I'm sure that'll be anytime now. The current policies are set to expire October 11th, but our broker has confirmed that they will ensure there's no gap in coverage. And I will be keeping a close eye on that timeline. I've also requested a quote for cyber insurance. Is that something we discussed a number of months ago, and we'll report back when I get a quote on what that involves. That's something that was recommended in our agreement with the Municipal Joint Services Board, that we have that, because that is not covered under that agreement. And I'm also currently drafting the bylaws for the Fire Services Committee to be filed with the Registry of Joint Stocks. They need to get a copy of that, and they need to get the list of directors and officers. Not your problem, just so you know what's happening. So we're still kind of in a place of insurance, then incorporation, then bank accounts. So we're still sitting here. It's been delightful. Fire hall, the design RFP closed on August 25th with 7 respondents, which is apparently more than they were anticipating. The Chester Fire Services Committee has requested that MODC staff and Chief Stevens conduct the first round of evaluation, then bring a short list of 3 to the full committee for the final round. There's been a development since I wrote this that just due to the confidentiality required, there can only be 1 round. So there's the committee's deciding now which way they're going to go, but I think it most likely that they will have the staff and Chief Stevens do the evaluation, and Nancy may be the representative for the village on that evaluation committee to represent the fire services.
I didn't understand what you meant by there will only be 1 round.
Because what we had initially asked Aaron was that the first, all 7 would be evaluated in the first cut. And then they would bring 3, and then the full committee would do an evaluation of those last 3. And that can't happen. So there can only be the 1 round. I know. I know. So the staff and the chief and potentially Nancy would conduct a round of evaluation and bring a single recommendation back to the full committee.
From the 3 forwarded.
From the 7.
7.
All 7 at once.
From all 7.
Jesus, Murphy.
That's crazy.
Well, what's this, bring a short list of 3?
That's what I was saying, that's what we had decided at the meeting last week, but since I wrote this, we found out on Monday that this hoped for procedure can't actually happen.
And under what rule is that?
That's under the procurement rules at the municipality. I don't know whether that comes from the provincial act or not.
So basically, I'm sorry.
No, go
May I?
ahead.
Yeah, so basically, our only finger in this will be you at the evaluations, if that's the way it goes down, is that correct?
Sounds like.
That's the way it sounds like it's gonna happen, so
Cody's-
we will have some input into that.
Well, no, you won't.
Well, you're on the
You
committee,
have to trust.
yeah,
me.
exactly, yeah, but someone from our end is gonna be,
And Cody is.
In
one,
there.
And code
Yeah.
evaluators.
so that they, yeah, and I'm thinking more in terms of, since we're giving up quite a bit here. We're gonna be paying for a certain amount of it, I assume. Once the proposals go ahead and the hall gets built or constructed, that the
That
commission.
would all be the committee. I mean,
Oh,
we
I
still
see.
own.
Yeah, we'll have to give them the money, but yeah,
It's,
yeah, okay. No, I just wanted to make sure the commission had a say in the matter, so you're our rep, basically.
and they floated the idea that I might be as well.
Well-
I'm quite happy not to, but Nancy would. Or both, I don't.
So.
But they
You
will,
would be
they
on by
assigned,
yourself, and how many other people would be on this?
so
The
that
committee.
would be the chief, Nancy, the director of public works, who's an engineer, right? We would definitely want an engineer on that. Tara, who,
CAO.
the CAO. and Bruce Blackwood because of his involvement with all of the fire services. So he's closer to what all the other 7 have.
So it's a manageable committee size at
Mhm.
least. It's not one of these 15-member jobbies or whatever that you get something.
You might want to ask for staff, for your own staff.
Pardon?
You might want to ask for your staff to be on the selection. Since it's well staffed on the other side.
No, that is the people who will be doing the evaluation. Cody, myself, Tara, Fred, and Bruce.
Staff.
Yeah, but they're evaluators. Just like Cody is an evaluator, and as I am an
Yeah.
evaluator.
You want them to have expertise in. stuff.
Yeah, the other people are engineers and various people that work for the municipality, aren't they? Or, yeah, except for the one guy.
Yeah,
We couldn't. Do it without using the committee, sorry.
No, I see your point.
I'm the only member of the committee that happens to be insured.
Hmm, hmm.
And Cody is insured.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's
Sort of.
well, yeah, as much as it can. But yeah, you think you don't have a multi-member committee
Oh,
that
yeah.
evaluating.
Oh, yeah.
It could be forever.
That's a break.
Okay, and the next item on here is policy review that the committee and the commission rather is reviewing proposed amendments to the meetings and procedures policy tonight. Which is the first of a comprehensive review on all the village's bylaws and policies. I would recommend that the reserve fund policy be next on the list for consideration as it's also affected by the. CBFD financial separation that's coming up, so that's something I've already been pulling apart a little bit. And it's not written in here, but would we prefer to have those policy discussions through a committee of the whole meeting, or do we want to continue?
No, it
would
would
make
make
the
the
meeting-
meeting.
It
The
doesn't make it
regular
longer.
meeting shorter.
Yeah. It's an extra meeting, but it's shorter.
It's up to the commission.
I think it's probably complex enough that it would be nice to have just that subject on the meeting agenda.
Gloria, any preferences? Randy?
No, not really, not in principle or anything, no.
Laura?
No, it's fine.
You don't mind giving up an extra? And it doesn't.
It can be daytime, it can be.
No, but the CLA rules, it has to be at 7 o'clock. On the second Wednesday of the month.
That's right.
Whatever.
That's right.
Third Wednesday, it's the third Wednesday, I believe.
Voice by our own
Yeah.
And then boardroom upgrade is the final item I had. A new larger video monitor was delivered. You can see the mount for it is up, but when it was taken out of the box, the corner of it was quite badly smashed up. So we've had to return it and wait for a refund before we reorder a new one. I don't want to order a new one until we've gotten the money back from the other one.
Where did you order?
It came from Amazon and their process is pretty clean, actually. I've never had to return anything before, but they provided shipping labels. We didn't have to pay to ship it back. I've been checking online. They have received it and they're reviewing the package, so I anticipate getting some kind of decision pretty soon.
Yeah, I've had to return things to Amazon and they're very good. They're prompt.
I was pleasantly surprised by it. So as soon as we can order that, so you can see a little bit from this that the arm swings out when it's in use. And it can fold back when it's not, and we would basically just turn this one around for use of the public gallery. When we have visitors here.
Okay. So Madam Clerk Treasurer. Going back to when I wasn't gonna interrupt you. Yes. First bullet, Jamie Yates. I had a chat with him and he recommended an architect. A specific architect. Who works. With accessibility issues. And I think that this would tie in nicely. With the hill that is on the, and by the on the landward side of the Lido pool. Also, the rock wall that needs to be remortared or drilled or whatever. And when, I think we have to get money from the municipality now in order to tie up this accessibility and architect and think about how we can orchestrate this geographical situation.
We are able to apply for the accessibility infrastructure funding through the municipality. We just have to make sure that they know we want to do that and what we would like to apply for. Because otherwise they're gonna put in an application for their own
Yeah,
and not include us. So it's not that we're getting money from the municipality. It would still be coming from the province, but through them.
okay,
So
so
that's a conversation before budget season really hits.
that's a conversation for tomorrow.
Yeah. Budget season really takes off again coming like November
Yeah,
for the municipality.
no, we've got to get our ore in their water now.
Yeah, the fact that Jamie Yates is suggesting that the structural situation is not as bad as we thought it was, I assume there's gonna be money left over in that grant. Have you talked to the people that are running that grant to see if they would accept a revision about how to spend the money?
Well, the application we had, I have not. The application that was sent in was for a project of $320,000 and they provided 150.
Oh, okay.
So the rest of the money was meant to come from our reserve funds. And,
Okay.
So until I get the report and can put out an RFP and get some responses, I don't know
Yep, understand.
what we're looking at in terms of the total, so.
Yeah.
I understand from Jamie that this accessibility architect is well sought after. If you could get
Yeah, I'll get the name.
the name and a foot in the door so that when we are ready and the municipality is ready and the province is ready, we'll be ready to act. Thanks.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I'm a little. I'm not quite sure what's being discussed here. Are you discussing rolling in to our pool fixes or our pool rejuvenation, something to do with accessibility while we're at it? Is that what where you're
Yes.
going?
Well, it's becoming required.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We
No, I'm
have-
sorry,
we have
I
to
never
fix
heard
the
this
wall.
before, you
The
know.
outer wall is gonna happen regardless.
Yeah.
Hopefully sooner than later, but
But we have to fix
there's quite a lot that needs to be done.
the deck
Yeah, the decking,
Decking
I understand that.
walls.
So you're thinking we do the accessibility stuff while we're doing.
Might
that,
as
is
well,
that
yeah.
Or at least get an engineer's report or an architect's report on how we could possibly reconfigure that hill
Before we do that, yeah.
instead of putting in a ramp willy-nilly.
Yeah, okay,
Because where such a ramp would be placed is a question.
yeah.
Would it be on the far side, but where some of the cars park now? Is that even possible? That's municipality land? Or are we looking at the other gate, which is where that rock wall is? Regardless, it's gonna need a switchback because to get a ramp,
Down there.
Yeah.
it'd be quite a lot of space.
So if you're saying that if we can find out what we need to do here or what we should do here, then we hit the municipality up to get us some money through some of the grant
Through
program.
the
Yeah, I think
accessibility.
it's a conversation even before we do that, that's a conversation I need to have with Tara and with Public Works and probably also.
I just need a
Diana.
clarification.
Yeah,
Didn't Martin Hills
Yes, they
meet
wasn't
somebody
involved with
about all
that.
of this?
Yeah, I have
a
some.
couple of young ladies.
I have some paperwork from Jeff about some work that was done on this that Fred wasn't aware of, so.
It was only last
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
So maybe-
Fred's only been there.
But I think Martin's was an elevator and there was some sense that it was too expensive. So that's why Nancy's suggestion about bringing an architect in, because might have
I'll
alternatives.
take
which
those
are-
elevators.
I remember distinctly.
There's a chairlift,
Chair.
Yeah.
which may or may not be needed.
Right.
It's so steep, it's difficult.
Yeah. Heather Robertson had a chairlift.
I'm sorry, I did it again.
Put up in there.
Okay, madam. Clerk treasurer report, please.
Okay. It's always the me show. Okay, so financial report, there's quite a bit that's. With us this time, so let me just read through the cover and then we'll walk through the documents. So the Scotiabank, the July bank statement, which was the printed version, and the August bank statement, which was online. Have both been reconciled, so we're caught up with those. The Q2 tax revenue installment for the village and fire department was received from the municipality on August 2nd. The village's Sage accounting system has been updated with the inputting of the 23-24 budget, as well as fully separating village and fire department line items in preparation for new books. We aren't able to open up the new books yet, which would have been nice if we could just move it all over, but we have to wait until the corporation and the bank accounts are opened to be able to do that. But in preparation, there's still line items that are combined, village and, like, for instance, the audit was one line, legal was one line that we had to manually separate, so. I've added some new line items to start pulling those apart, so it won't be so hard to transfer. The provincial funding received for the Lido has been included on the revenue side, although the capital project has not been added to the expenses at this time, which is to be funded from the Lido reserve, which we were just talking about, so it may or may not be the 320 that we were thinking. Budget variance report with the updates to the system, it is now possible to provide monthly comparative income statement reports. Attached are two versions for your consideration. So actually, I'm gonna back up a little bit. And just go back up to Scotiabank. So the first couple of pages you had there. What was in your original package was a reconciliation detailed report, which is what
Is that
Jeff had
Sage?
provided you, and this is what I've been providing.
Is that Sage?
It's all Sage, yeah.
Is there a page number, Heather?
It's page 48. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's in your package. So this is what Jeff gave you, and this is what I've been giving you to match what Jeff gave you. But this does have quite a bit of detail, which you may or may not want. The new pieces of paper I gave you is just, this is a summary report, so it doesn't have all of this breakdown. It just says, this is what we had at the beginning of the month, this is what we had at the end of the month. And I attached the bank statements just so you can see that the amounts match. So it's really a question for the monthly reconciled. Do you still want to get the detailed statement, or is this what you would rather see?
or do you want both?
Or do you want both? Yeah,
I'm perfectly happy with this.
Me too,
okay. With the
but
bank
if he
statement
likes
attached, or
to
just-
look over the checks, she's welcome to.
You can send me the checks.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that's what that first one is,
Yeah.
all the checks.
Do you want the bank statements attached to?
No, I.
These are super easy to run off, it's not. a
Yeah, I
problem.
know, it's just, I'm not sure, I don't work from them, I work from the balance sheets, like, you
Right,
know,
right.
so. To me personally, no, it's not a big, I don't need it. But for those who want to really do the deep dive, why, that's something else. I did have a couple, oh no, this is an interest.
Okay, and then, going into the budget variance report, so. This is, let me just get to the right
Page
page,
of that, Heather.
page 52.
Thank you.
So page 52 through 55, this is what the system generates, and this is what you used to get from Dennis. So this is the, a simple report to run. But the difficulty with this is that the line items are all mixed up, so it can, while the totals at the bottom are all correct, it's a bit hard to read because it's got fire and village all kind of confused together. Is partly why I didn't really want to do this until we had the new books, but so this is again a simple thing to run off, but a little confusing. The other version I provided is the exact same information, but this is what's generated directly from Sage. This was exporting that same report into Excel just so I could order the line items the way you're used to seeing them in the budget. So it's exactly the same information, same totals, but just rearranged.
But not more organized.
Yeah,
I like that
Which
last
is
one
that?
the best.
Which one is
yeah,
that?
that would be the ones from 56, and I've got them separated as village and fire. So pages 56 to 59 for the village and 60 to 64 for fire.
Oh, yeah, I like that second one. much
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
So that's the way I've been giving you the
That one has
quarterly
the
reports
notes,
up to now, so it was really a question of, are you happy with these ones like Dennis used to provide, or would you like me to continue to do these ones? Or do we want these ones only quarterly? It's completely up to you.
But once the fire is gone, it's gonna become simpler, am I right?
It will, also, I'll be writing it off then, but that doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
I'd prefer the export to Excel version that aligns with the budget.
Right, because what, for the versions you were getting from Jeff and I before I put the budget in, we were still exporting from Sage to get all the information.
Sure.
But it was a bit more manual fiddling. This is still a little fiddly, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. Okay, great.
So what did we decide upon as our final thought then?
So we want to keep this
Well,
version.
I had a little problem deciding which notes went with which statement there, so I had to figure that out.
Yeah, I had them at the end before, and you
Yeah.
all said you wanted them at the
I
beginning.
don't know, yeah. So the 57 to
Yes.
59, is that the one we seem to like, or is that? Yeah. Me too,
Yeah, so I can give you these every.
but the other stuff is interesting, but not, it's too hard to pick out individual things that are.
Yeah, and that will again get a little easier once the fire is separated out, so. You may wanna, I'll look at that again once that works out.
Okay.
Okay, and then vehicle claim, just to confirm that the 531 pumper tanker truck repairs will be covered by the village insurers to the amount of the $10,000 deductible plus tax.
And how much is the actual repair, do you recall?
It's about 67,000 was the estimate.
What happened?
There, oh my gosh, so it went into standing water
Yeah,
during those storms.
right,
And there was a boulder underneath that they couldn't see
Ouch.
because of the water.
Yeah.
So they kind of hit that, and then because the water was so deep, it sucked water all up into the engine. So a right mess. And they thought at first when they brought it in that the crank shaft, I think, would be okay, but once they opened it up, it wasn't. So there was a bit of rigmarole about whether the insurers were going to pay the original estimate and we would make up the difference, but then they decided they would pay the whole thing.
so they're only taking a $10,000 deduction,
Correct.
their insurance company, that's not
plus
bad.
tax.
Yes, plus that. Or,
We get a tax back anyway.
Yeah.
well, most of it, yeah.
If they ever answer.
If they ever answer the phone or our letters.
I'm surprised that the Remember State wreath isn't in the budget. It's not like we haven't been doing it for years.
We just did it offhand last year, didn't we?
Yeah, it's been coming out membership and.
Again, it's similar to some of the other things we've talked about tonight. We've been doing it, but it's not written down anywhere, so. It would just be nice to confirm we're doing it, because I know we did it for a few years during the pandemic. A, that we're doing it, and B, that we make sure it's in the budget. It's a small item, but still.
Yeah, did you check with them this year that it's $75? Cause I
It's
think it went
100.
up.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
100.
My mistake,
Yeah.
Okay,
but they don't have the amount set for this. year.
No, it's been going up, inflation, blah, blah, blah. The last time I talked to Nunavut, they were talking about putting it up to 150, so. Nunavut, by the way, is the head of the legions for Nova Scotia.
man,
Nunavut.
Nunavut,
Yeah.
that's what they call it.
we're in their zone, like.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
These are very expensive in Nunavut, so.
I think it is, sorry, I think it is still $100.
I asked Elizabeth Heisler, because she was doing that for us every year, and she said at that point it wasn't decided.
Right,
Last
branch 44.
Yeah,
whoever it is.
Yeah, and see, Nunavut sets it and then branches
Hmm.
apply it.
It's a little different this year,
Is it?
yeah. I think branch 44 is looking to keep as much money earned from the reeds in branch 44 district, of course, not to the command, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nunavut command, yeah.
No, the way I understood it, and I could be wrong, but Nunavut sets the price for like there's 3 different sizes. And then the branches actually, I mean, you can buy it through Nunavut, but then your branch doesn't get any money. So then the branches sell it to the people who want it, but the central office sets the price for it. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
Well, I don't know, I think the branch 44 was from $100, they went with $15.
Well, you definitely want to be working with the 44 because every dime we can give them.
Yeah.
For it.
It's in the line.
Yeah.
All right, are we on number 9? Or do you still want 8.2 continued? Which was the bank reconciliation.
Yes.
I had a couple of questions, but they're not that important, and
Yeah. if
In the
anyone
interest
has
of time.
questions About
the line items and
the
the,
line
yeah.
items in the budget report, because I mentioned in the notes that this is the reverse of what we have been seeing, where what we have been seeing was the percentage that had been spent.
Yeah.
And what the system generates is the percentage that's remaining.
Yeah.
So,
It shows us how much under budget we are.
So may I?
Yeah.
What page are you on right now?
I'm on 58 right now.
Okay.
I had a, sorry, I may have to use something here to go across. Employment insurance. We're down to a third of what we budgeted.
Yeah,
Is that because of some massive increase on the part of the government? Also CPP the same. We're showing minus 37 for one of them and minus 32, which is, we have a third left and we're only, what, halfway through?
they probably went up by CPI and the budget probably did not.
Okay, well, that's
That's
fine.
what I'm gonna guess.
So we're gonna be probably
The
over
CPI
budget.
is a lot
Yeah.
this year.
And membership and dues is another one where we're down to 40%.
yeah,
Is that due to anything in particular?
Mostly, things like memberships and dues are often annual, so I have to break out the line, but I don't.
So everything went up a little this year, basically is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I don't think there'll be as much in the second half because.
Okay,
most of the
that's,
dues
yeah,
are
you paid it already,
are
okay.
paid already.
Employee benefits have not been spent yet, why not?
That is, a line item that was put in for, a pension.
Oh,
version
okay.
For my.
For you, yeah, okay, fine.
So, yes. hasn't
That's
been
good.
applicable yet.
I thought that might be what it was, but I wanted to make sure. Well, the baskets are they done and put to bed yet? Or do we still have to pay Carrie a little bit more money?
We still have to pay the third installment,
Do we pay
Okay.
him to take them down and put them away and so on? Yeah.
and he takes the baskets back to,
So we've got 30% left on that. Is that gonna be
Where,
enough to
where
cover
was
it?
that line?
Beautification, yeah. So we're down to a third of our budget for flower baskets. Is that gonna be enough to cover?
Well, we
Gary?
paid 2 of 3 installments,
Yeah.
so it should be.
All right,
It
good.
should be fine.
I won't belabor the point. Public washrooms, page 59. Where are they when the Lido closes? Is there other public washrooms we're responsible for?
No, it's the same.
Till
But the
November
Lido
11th.
closes, but the public washrooms are open from basically Victoria Day to Remembrance Day.
Oh, okay, so
they're
it's,
open for much
it's
longer
now
than-
to the end, okay. Cause I see the Lido has its own washroom maintenance and things as well, under maintenance and operations, I would assume. That was why I questioned why would it be in two places?
I see,
There's only
Just-
one
it's in the heading.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll have to change that heading.
Okay, that's fine.
they have a washroom in there for the lifeguards, but I don't know
Yeah.
why that washroom.
Yeah.
was there.
Yeah, it looks like washroom. is
Why
the
was it in
next
two
day.
places?
It's probably because in the version that it spits out, that was the heading and I didn't catch it.
Okay,
so
cool,
I'll
that's
just Take
fine.
it out when the next.
The supervisor security race week is still showing 100%. Have we not got a bill from the yacht club
We have
yet?
not yet. No.
Really? Okay. I'm good with that.
Is that?
Page 59, supervisor secure under Lido pool and washrooms. Bottom, second
Oh,
last
okay,
thing.
Look at it, I'm sorry.
So at this point in the year, I figured, they would have gave us a bill and we would have paid it by now. but-
Well, they
Apparently not.
just backed up to part-time 3 days ago.
Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. I just thought it was odd that they wouldn't have billed us yet.
Still on page 59.
Okay,
Operations, property maintenance, landscaping. We're over budget. We're.
oh, yeah,
Up at the top.
up at the
Yeah.
top there. Yeah, we are actually. That was something I had marked, but I didn't
And-
get to ask.
Well,
Considerably.
is there more to come? Under that line item?
Probably not, that's probably been all. The flower.
I'd have to break open. the one with that.
Wait,
That's
renew.
Spinnings and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what we put, filling. Pumpkins.
Is that not the weakness of that system though, is that you can't click on that and see your breakdown? Do you know?
Yeah, I can't click on it, not from this.
Because it's Excel. Is that Excel? or
Well,
is that-
even with this is exported to Excel, yes, so that I can organize it. But even in the other one, I can't, I have to be in Sage to be able to open
In
it,
Sage.
and I can only do that from my desktop. I
Hmm.
can't do it from here. That's one system we can't get into remotely, we have to do that on our desks.
Waste removal, just down a little bit from Nancy's thing.
Mhm.
Is that? Why did I ask that?
That's the one up at the fire hall.
Oh, okay, fine, that's not where I thought it was. I knew we had a couple of them around. That's it, I guess that does it for me anyway.
So Giblot maintenance, that's.
That should be over soon, that's mowing, isn't it?
Your budget by 13%.
Yeah, there's still a mowing or two left.
So that's.
Yeah.
I'll look at it as well.
I just keep
Leaf raking,
And what?
leaf raking. Yet to come,
Probably.
so it'll be over budget then.
We
Maybe.
still have some mowing bills.
Yeah, so we will be over budget.
I'll wait and see what the bills are.
Yeah,
Are the lifeguard wages done?
That's not complete yet, that's mostly completed, but there's one more pay period that doesn't show up in this.
Okay,
I think they were still okay anyway.
Yeah, we were in fun.
We were doing good
You got
there.
some surplus there, by the way.
Yeah. I think that- Shit, I had one more thing, I can't find it.
yeah,
Keep everybody here forever.
I know. You don't know if, on the fire department side, obviously, insurance is up. Helmets, well, no point in asking. Never mind, I'll ask somebody in the fire department. Yeah, I
I've
was
spoken
thinking
to
how much
Tony about have us having regular sit downs to go through.
Yeah,
To just look at these items, and I know he would like to do that as well, we just haven't managed to connect yet on a day that will work for him with his work schedule.
oh, right.
Because when we receive invoices for the fire department, they've written on it what line item they want it to go to, sometimes we have a question about that, but, I'd rather kind of sit down with him and go through it.
I would have thought that a helmet would have cost more than $112.
Yeah.
What, the fireman helmet? Yeah, I would think.
I would have thought they were like.
They didn't have anything in the budget for helmets this year, so it must have just been some small repair or something. Oh, you wouldn't repair a helmet. We'd have
No.
to-
But I
we'd have to look.
I know they've gotten some labels or name tags, whatever.
Oh, that's
That
probably-
sits up there.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Just be the
Fireman
bill that
number or name or something,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, where the
You
shield would
see-
go.
number 57 or whatever,
All right.
yeah. Anybody?
Please, can we move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I apologize because I've taken up most of the time here. 9.1, check signing protocol. Geraldine, Heather,
That was a suggestion from Geraldine, that came up on the holiday weekend when we were scrambling a little bit for a signature. That she was, I shouldn't speak for you, Geraldine, but this,
I just suggested, since we were scrambling, if there's an important, like a paycheck or something that really needs to go out. Yeah, at a specific time, and there weren't two commissioners available, as long as one commissioner was available to sign, then in an emergency, the chief. Staff person should be able to sign off on the check.
You'd have to put that through, the bank would have to be aware.
Oh, yeah.
just have to get signed.
Most organizations that I was, the senior staff on, and we never did it. Unless it was an emergency and it was a personal thing, like somebody salary or, and it was last minute, it's usually a long weekend, and the commissioners were all away and.
It's a backup.
Yeah, it's an emergency backstop,
how often does that happen?
maybe once a year.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that you were gonna go sign the check, but you needed somebody else.
Well,
There has to be some kind of guardrail here. I mean, you don't want it to be,
Well, that's why there needs to be.
you don't,
But it has to be one commission.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
you don't want
normally
it to
it's two
become a
commissioners.
regular habit, like. What's an emergency, what isn't an emergency?
Yeah.
That's a subjective, sometimes subjective item, If you just want to do it for the person's convenience, that's not an emergency as far as I'm concerned.
I'm talking about somebody like a salary check or something like that, or maybe.
That's real, actually.
well,
what
a separate check is direct deposit.
Some of them are, but not all of them. A couple of them we were.
Yeah, we've been signing checks all summer for a couple of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems to me that when the subject came up, it was a salary check.
Mhm.
Why don't you, when you're talking with Lawrence
Mhm.
and finding out about what needs to be done in his department. Ask him whether or not this is, an appropriate move.
Okay.
And if a policy needs to be drafted. Saying under penalty of death.
I would think a policy should exist anyway.
Of course.
Well, do we have an emergency fund or something that could? No, that opens up a whole can.
Yeah, you don't want cash laying.
Petty
around.
cash, no, I was thinking more of an amount of money that's kept off to the side for just such purposes. and-
Somebody still has to sign off.
Yeah, you're right, yeah, it doesn't work. We should perhaps insist, at least for the lifeguards, that they do direct deposit, it's not a
Some of
choice.
them don't have bank accounts, the little ones.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, what was the rationale for those two?
They
just
were
were-
only, one was only available weekends and.
Yeah, they were just so apart.
Yeah, okay,
You know,
it makes
They
sense.
work and I couldn't get them because they couldn't come in when I was here to do the form.
Right.
So that it's not, you can't force them to have
Yeah.
a bank account.
Believe it or not, when I was working for MLAs, there are some human beings to this day who don't have a bank account, especially older people
Keep it in the
under
bank.
poverty,
Yeah.
under the poverty line, they don't have bank account.
Hmm.
Seems unbelievable.
Okay. 9.2, Remembrance Day wreath. So,
Can we just pass them?
I think this one's pretty straightforward, that I can't imagine you wouldn't. Want to go. ahead
No, we
with
did it
those
last
motions,
year,
but
yeah.
Again, this is something that we've been doing in practice, but this is just a way of.
but the wording of the motion, let that staff proceed with the purchase of the village commission wreath. My understanding is that the wreath does not. Itself does not need to be purchased. So
Wow.
Huh?
it's recycled.
Once you
for it every
purchase
No, we
it
just
once,
pay for
So
it,
you,
yeah.
you just make the donation. In the amount of the wreath.
I didn't think they were recycled.
No, they're
Because it
not.
was fundraising.
I'm sorry,
I don't think they were recycled.
They
I
want
still
to
didn't
buy
hear
them
you.
every year.
I don't think they are recycled. Unless they're changed, they weren't the other year when somebody asked.
well, I believe they are, so
I can tell you in a minute.
you're gonna call Elizabeth. I talked to Marion,
But we pay for them every year, right?
Yeah,
Like a
still have to
contribution.
pay.
so you're not actually purchasing a wreath, or go ahead and purchase, or make whatever motion you feel like making.
Well, could we say we make a contribution to branch 44 of the Royal Canadian Legion annually?
For the purposes
For the purpose of, yeah.
laying a wreath or something.
For the purpose of recycling the wreath.
Hmm.
Wouldn't go that far. It's up to them if they recycle.
I think the bottom part of that motion proposal looks about right.
Would somebody make it?
Yeah, does that, the last bit there, that's separate from the top of the motion,
Sure.
that the cost of an annual Remembrance Day wreath be included in the beautification event section of the village budget going forward. That seems,
Excellent.
I'll move it, so moved.
Thank you, Randy. Second.
1 second.
Thank you, Gloria. All those in favor? Carried. You get your answer, Gloria?
No. I give him a second. I'm sorry.
All right, I don't want to get hung up on this. The purchase.
No, just move
All
on.
right, this,
We
the
kind of know what we mean.
purchase. Quote, unquote.
Yeah,
We'll
Somebody
give the
want to make
Legion
that
money.
motion?
what's that?
The purchase of the Remembrance Day Village Commission wreath.
Can we say we make an annual contribution
That's-
toward a wreath?
That's been done. Or,
I think I just made a motion that covers us off for getting a wreath
Okay,
without saying anything about whether it's
Yeah.
recycled or we actually
okay.
do anything with it.
so let staff proceed with the purchase of the
No, we skipped that. part.
purchase.
Oh,
There's two things. and
okay, sorry.
This year and then going forward.
And the purchase is this. Randy,
I don't
Whether it's
know, I'm not
purchase or
quite sure what it
it's a fake purchase.
I would say we should make a contribution to branch 44 of the Royal Canadian Legion on an annual basis. To support the laying of a wreath at the Remembrance Day ceremony.
Sounds good.
Sure.
That way,
But that's sort of a motion for every year, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
yeah, because
So we make
every
it a
year,
normal budgetary, well, I
Well, we've
said,
already done that.
let's put it in the budget.
Yeah,
yeah,
We've already put it in the budget.
So that was moved by Geraldine.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Randy. All in favor? Nope, carried. Laura. Is this your baby?
It is.
So,
Good. So I received a call from a gentleman who does not live in the village. But was his wife has a legitimate.
sure.
Service dog, she is not blind, there's two categories. Was refused service at 3 locations in the village. For which they could be subjected to a fine of up to $3,000. They did not want to pursue it that way. And imagine if it was on the news,
Yeah.
Chester Village Subway merchant
Yeah.
refused to serve somebody with a dog with a license. I did speak to
I was
Ellen.
gonna say, she
And
gets the
She
card.
has a
And they
licensed
signed
dog,
too.
and Ellen Johnson spoke to this person. She's our accessibility coordinator in the municipality and for several towns.
Spoke to the offending
Spoke to me,
individual.
spoke to the victim or the person subjected to the refusal to get their story. She actually learned quite a bit as well, and they fall under the Service Dog Act. And so my idea, and then I was going to include Geraldine because she's on the accessibility committee, is just Maxine kindly printed me off the act, the things that were sent to me by Ellen. We would just go have a word at, I could name them, I guess. Tim
We give them
Hortons.
this poster.
Well, and yeah, and Heather found this simple poster. And that they have to serve the people. And so what happened is the person who called me, they're gonna go, once I've had a little word, or we've had a little word with them, very gently, just educating and making sure that they educate their staff. They're gonna go back for a return visit and they're gonna give me a report. And hopefully it goes well. But I was also thinking I made a little list, you know, the grocery store, the Kiwi, the Jib. Because people don't often know the rules. And it is also a crime, which I learned. We have had this at the farmer's market. Oh, this is my emotional support dog.
Yeah,
No
That's not.
no disrespect to those or anything,
no, but they don't.
but they don't come under the same rules. And also, if you pretend that your dog is a service dog, that is an actionable offense, and that comes under the Department of Justice.
But these dogs, the person actually has a certificate.
Oh, yeah.
And then the dog has the little doohickey.
So,
And the blind people are covered by a guide
That's
dog.
different.
They have separate
Yeah.
legislation, so we printed it all out. I was gonna highlight some. And
It was Tim Hortons
I
and
can
one
give
of
you
the
some of
others.
those in color, those posters.
it was the Tim Hortons Subway and the Stretch Diner.
Gee, the stretch.
I can't
That's
believe
weird.
the stretch.
Because they're all foreigners out there. They don't
Yeah.
think. No, I'm sorry, nowadays they are
Come
not,
from a ways.
yes, they're not people who
They're really
are
Canadians.
normally what you see here. So they probably don't know the legal outcome of anything like that, yeah.
Same as mine.
So they were just really interested in education.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna do our little bit to educate them, and then there'll be a test.
Did the, yeah,
We're just gonna be.
did the lady
frankly
come in at all, or she stopped
No.
at the door?
No, didn't get in, and they know the rules very well.
Oh, at Tim's issue.
No, the people,
The people, yeah.
they know
Of course, yeah.
it. I don't think I'd wanna mess with this.
I'm
It was
I'm
really
surprised when
angry.
they, like, they had their little certificate and so on, I'm surprised.
That was a Canadian person, I would add that
Ah.
they refused that one.
Really?
Yeah. So-
See, that, yeah, there's no excuse anymore. That's what.
Well, that action seems very smart, very reasonable,
Oh, yeah.
to broadcast the need. For accessibility for this person.
Yeah. They're spending money in our village and we
We're gonna
don't.
have to have a little bit on CBC about how forward thinking the commission is.
Yes.
Oh,
You don't want to be too controversial with that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, tell me. These people are residents of the, not of the village.
not of the village, but of the municipality, but they were choosing to dine in the village.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just wondering. If, the people in their, the restaurants, et cetera, in their neighborhood. Are familiar with. The requirements to.
Chester Grant doesn't have a lot of it, of residents.
Are they're full-time residents for these?
Oh,
people?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they they do go to Jamal's. I said, oh, I could go there on my list. They said, no, we are always welcome there at all times.
Oh,
Never a problem.
This is on number 3.
Yeah,
or-
no.
Or Sam, same way.
I think probably both.
Yeah.
So I just point that out.
Well. Traffic cops. Guide dog.
Service dog people.
Service dog people.
Champions of the underdog.
Yes,
It's a good thing, Laura, that's a good
thank
thing.
you both very much. Now, is there a motion to do anything? Oh, sorry, we're not done yet. Oh, God.
What else is on the agenda?
In camera. Commissioner roundtable.
Oh, that's an in-camera thing.
What have we got in camera?
In cameras, number 11, Commissioner Ranjit, something.
Does anybody have anything for the commissioner roundtable?
We just did.
That was my thing.
I thought so.
I wanted to ask Laura, before we move on, just a quick question, did the Turkish family get over?
Thank you. Yes, they arrived 2 weeks ago. They started school, the little girls,
Good,
and they're very happy.
I wanted to
They're
know the.
Really
conclusion.
happy. I
Yeah,
took them to the bank. They have their account set up. They're a lovely family. And they're
Yay.
so happy to be here. So thank you
good, good,
for
good.
following up on that.
They're
I,
right here in the village.
Now they're in Island View subdivision.
Oh, okay.
East Chester, yeah.
Yeah, next to Jessica Birch, if you know. where she
Now,
is.
do they have a vehicle
They
yet?
do not have a vehicle, it is not easy. We are actually looking for volunteer drivers to drive them to lots of appointments, so.
I can't get very many humans in my.
I saw that the municipality had their arrival on their Facebook page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do we have that? No. We
I've
can put that
seen
on,
that one, yeah, I'll look for it.
I've seen it posted. Yeah.
because everyone in the village and municipality supported money wise,
Yeah.
furniture wise, volunteer wise, so it's really. And their house, they have a lovely house that a volunteer. No, well, that a generous person bought over asking by $50,000
Holy mackerel.
to rent it at a reasonable rent. They could easily ask double. So we have a 2-year lease, so they don't have to worry.
Wonder.
That's very kind.
That's how it should be
Yeah.
done.
And
Yes.
it's not like a rich Chester person, it's just a nice,
Somebody-
The person.
ordinary.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Laura. Anything else? Okay, then. I would like to have. A motion, please.
I move, we adjourn.
No,
No.
sorry.
To go
Gotta
camera.
move in camera now, yeah. No, we're not getting out yet.
I have to pee.
Go Pete,
Yeah,
you wanna
yeah.
take it? We'll take
Recess.
a short.
Somebody
recess.
send stuff.
I move, we take a short break.
Move to go in camera and then second. and then
Okay.
you can close it off.
Oh.